the bus driver who never took anyone home. It started the night my shift at the diner ran late. The buses had already stopped running, or so I thought, until I saw one idling at the corner across the street. The headlights cut through the fog, pale beams slicing into the dark, and the sign above the windshield flickered with unreadable letters. I hesitated. I'd never seen that bus route before. Still, it was cold and my feet ached. I climbed aboard. The driver didn't greet me. He just watched as I dropped my coins into the fare box. His face was gaunt, skin stretched too tight over bone, and his eyes, deep, sunken pits, never blinked. His uniform was decades out of date, faded to the color of ash. I glanced down the aisle. Every seat was empty. End of the line, I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. The driver's mouth twitched, but his voice, when it came, was a rasp. No stops. I'll take you where you need to go. Something about the way he said it made the hair on my neck rise. I should have gotten off right then. But the doors hissed shut before I could move, sealing me inside. The bus lurched forward, pulling away from the familiar streets I knew. The windows fogged, and the streetlights outside grew dim, warped, until they no longer looked like streetlights at all, more like tall, black shapes watching as we passed. I clutched my bag tighter, feeling the hum of the engine beneath my feet. It didn't sound right, too slow, too deep, like a heartbeat echoing through the metal frame. Then I noticed something strange. The road outside wasn't paved anymore. It was dirt, rough and uneven, lined with crooked, leafless trees that clawed at the sky. I leaned toward the driver. Where are we? His hands tightened on the wheel. Almost there. In the mirror, I thought I saw movement behind me. My head whipped around, but the seats were still empty. Almost. But as the bus rattled deeper into the black woods, I realized I could hear breathing, slow, heavy, coming from somewhere in the back. And this time, I wasn't sure it was the driver's. The clock struck 2:17 a.m. again. Not the next night. Not the night after. 3 weeks later. And this time, everyone was awake. Parents sat on porches with rifles and shaking hands. Streetlights flickered like dying fireflies, and the air itself seemed to taste of rust and wet stone. We thought we were ready. We thought we could stop it. Then came the footsteps. Soft, uneven, as if someone was dragging something heavy along the pavement. They started at the edge of town, by the old Miller orchard, and crept closer, one crunch of gravel at a time. The mayor's son was the first to see them. He screamed, but not in fear, in awe. His voice cut through the cold air. They're back. Down the main road, we saw them. The children. The same 17 who had vanished. Only now, their faces were wrong. They weren't smiling. They weren't crying. They were blank. Like someone had erased every trace of who they'd been. Their pajamas were soaked, their hair matted with what looked like black soil, and their eyes, God, their eyes, were glassy, as if they belonged to mannequins. When the first mother ran to her daughter, the girl stopped walking, slowly turned her head, and whispered something no one could make out. The woman froze in place, and then collapsed without a sound. That's when we saw it. The ground beneath the children's bare feet was wet. Not from rain. From something darker. Something that spread outward with every step they took. And no matter how far we backed away, the sound of those footsteps followed. Closer, closer, until one of them looked at me and smiled. The night after the mirror's first change, I decided to test it. Not out of courage, but because fear had a way of gnawing at me if I didn't face it. I stood in front of it again, holding a flashlight. In my reflection, the room looked normal. Same bed, same desk. But my reflection wasn't holding the flashlight. It was holding a candle. The flame flickered unnaturally, like it was gasping for air. And then, the me in the mirror smiled. I didn't. The smile stretched too wide, teeth showing in a way that made my stomach twist. It raised its candle higher, revealing something behind it. A doorway. But there's no doorway behind me. Not in my room. Not in my house. I stepped back. My reflection didn't. It leaned forward, as if pressing its face against the glass from the other side. And then the candle went out. Darkness swallowed its world, but not mine. I could still feel it, breathing, just beyond the glass. That night, I dreamed of standing in a cold, endless hallway, lit only by that single candle. The air smelled like wet stone and rotting wood. Something whispered from the dark. My name, over and over, until it sounded less like my name, and more like a warning. When I woke up, the mirror was covered in fingerprints. But they weren't mine. The night after the whispering began, the entire town gathered on Main Street. No one knew who had called the meeting. No flyers. No announcements. And yet, everyone felt pulled here, like sleepwalkers answering a dream they couldn't remember. The air was thick with the scent of burning sage and wet earth. Somewhere in the distance, a drum began to beat. Slow, rhythmic, like a heartbeat that wasn't yours. From the fog at the far end of the street, they appeared. A procession of figures, long-limbed, swaying, their faces covered by porcelain masks painted with smiles far too wide. Each wore an old-fashioned suit or gown, moth-eaten and damp, as if pulled from the bottom of a lake. Their movements were smooth, almost gliding. The townspeople didn't scream. They didn't run. They stepped forward, one by one, joining the masked strangers in perfect silence. The drum beats grew louder. Every time one of the masked figures passed a street lamp, the light flickered, and when it returned, someone from town had vanished from the crowd. No one reacted, not even the ones who had come with them. Near the back of the procession, I saw her, my sister. Her hair hung wet around her face, her eyes vacant. Her mouth opened, but the voice that came out wasn't hers. You shouldn't have watched. I stumbled backward, heart pounding, but a cold hand caught my wrist. It belonged to a masked child, no taller than my waist, its porcelain face cracked down the middle. Through the crack, I could see teeth. The drumbeat stopped. The child tilted its head. And in the silence, I heard the rest of the town join the parade. Forever. I didn't make it to the gates. The hallway of the nocturnal house had stretched into something impossible. Every step I took, the exit door only slid farther away, like the zoo itself was breathing me deeper, inside its lungs. And then I heard them. Not the animals, but voices. They were whispering goodnight. Not just one voice, dozens, overlapping, each one distorted like it was coming through a broken speaker. The meerkat enclosure was empty now, glass fogged from the inside. In the gorilla habitat, shapes pressed against the glass, their eyes reflecting pale gold. Not gorillas anymore. Not anything I could name. The whispers grew louder until I could feel the words crawling across my skin. Say it back. I stumbled into the central courtyard. Every cage was open now. Shapes stood in the shadows, tall, hunched, crawling, floating just above the ground. Their eyes burned like coals, all fixed on me. The zookeeper was there too. Only she wasn't alone. Something stood behind her, a black, animal-shaped shadow that bent its head to whisper into her ear. Her lips moved in perfect time with its voice. You have to say it back, or you'll never leave. I shook my head. I'm not. She tilted her head. The shadow behind her stretched forward like smoke, wrapping around me. Its weight was crushing, my lungs clawed for air. My vision blurred, and in that blur I saw them all, everyone who had ever stayed past midnight. Their faces pressed in the dark, pale and hollow-eyed, lips frozen mid-goodnight. The thing's voice split into 1,000 echoes. If you don't say it, you'll stay here too. My lips trembled. My chest burned. My vision darkened. And just before the world slipped away, I heard myself whisper it. Good night. The zoo exhaled. I woke outside the gates, the sun barely peeking over the horizon. My hands were shaking. My phone was gone. My shoes were wet with something that wasn't water. The zookeeper was nowhere in sight. But as I stumbled away, the air behind me shifted, soft and warm, like a whisper in the dark. See you tonight.